Good afternoon to Dr. Manoj Kumar. Good afternoon to Dr. Manoj Kumar.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bismohan.
Actually, the participants want some queries regarding to the third session.
Yes, sure.
They left some queries, so should we start with the query section before starting the fourth session?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is for all participants. If you have any query from the earlier session, then please type it in the chat section. We will ask those queries first and then we will move on to next session. So we have got the queries.
Yes, sure.
So first one is from Mr. Pritam Paul. So he is asking, please explain surface degradation.
Yes, surface degradation. So basically, that is not surface degradation. That is degradation of the electrolyte at the surface of electrode material. Yeah, surface degradation also that may also be like one of the thing, but it is degradation of electrolyte at the surface of electrode material. So what happens here? When a new surface of your electrolyte come in contact, new surface of your electrode material comes in contact with the electrolyte. So at that new surface, your electrolyte get reduced. It get degrades in its components. It's not component in some other compounds, so lithium fluoride, lithium carbonate, lithium bicarbonate, and lithium oxide. So these material get deposited in the form of film. So that passivation layer is called SEI layer. So this is mechanism of surface degradation of electrolyte, like degradation of electrolyte at the surface of an electrode.
Okay, so next query is from Mr. Surajit Ghosh. Yeah, so he's asking sodium ion batteries. So can you please little elaborate on that?
Yeah, so anyway, a small topic I'm going to touch upon in my presentation also, in this presentation also. So sodium ion battery is not much different from the lithium ion battery. You just simply replace lithium with sodium. That's it. Otherwise, there is no much difference. There is a subtle difference in terms of activity of sodium with the material, the kinetics of the sodium, the material. The chemistry remains more or less same. And one more difference is in the an electrode potential. So if you are working with the sodium instead of lithium, then against the sodium metal, your redox potential will be like 2.7, whereas 2.7, 2.8, whereas in the case of lithium, it is like 3.1, 3.1 volt. So these are like couple of generic difference between sodium and the lithium chemistries. Otherwise, from metal point of view, there is not much difference. It's just analogy of lithium and battery.
Thank you. The next question is, yeah, I guess, yeah, we should start the next session then. We're done with the session. Yeah, questions for class.
So shall I start now?
Yeah, please. Continue.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, for the next session of this interesting online short-term course. So, in this session, what I'm going to tell you, the stress measurement and its consequences, the development of stresses, its consequences on the electrode life and its performance. and how we can monitor this stress in real time. I will take an example of silicon throughout this lecture, and how we can minimize those stresses with the help of a very thin layer in between the active material and hello, am I audible,
Yes.
Kunal?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes.
it's audible.
yeah, fine. So how these huge stresses can be minimized with the help of a very thin layer in between the current collector and the active electrode film. So this is the topic. This is the broad topic of my PhD research and afterwards. So as you already know that in electrode you have a current collector. Just a minute, I should select a pointer. So you deposit your electrode material on current collectors. Okay. So in cathode side, your current collector is aluminum, whereas at the anode side, your current collector is made of copper. In between, there is a polymeric separator through which the lithium ion can pass through easily. So I already discussed the challenges with the graphitic carbon, why people want to replace graphite in commercial lithium-ion battery nowadays, because it has a very limited lithium capacity. At the same moment, due to lower, lithium storage potential, there are safety concerns in terms of, dendrite form upon the lithium plating on graphite, which eventually grows in the form of lithium dendrites, which can short circuit the cell. So what can be the possible solution of graphitic carbon? Like how we can replace the graphitic carbon with with what kind of materials? So the solution is these materials. These materials. The possible candidates are silicon, which has a really very high theoretical lithium storage capacity, around 4,000 milliampere hour per gram. Then there can be tin and antimony. These are a couple of materials. But if you want to use these materials, basically these materials are alloy based reaction, whereas the graphite is layered material where your lithium can intercalate between the graphene layers. But in these alloy based reaction, what will happen, your lithium will react first with the host material, and it will form lithium and that particular materials alloy. So during this process, what happens, the kinetics will be the slower due to this complex alloying reaction. So ultimately you have to compromise with the great capability of your electrode. So now, if you want to use this alloy-based electrode, these materials, again these materials has their own challenges. On challenges is what in what terms? Because these materials suffers with a huge volume changes. If you compare here, if you use silicon instead of graphene, instead of carbon or graphite, it can deliver you more than 10 times of lithium storage capacity. But what happens due to one more thing, 6 carbon atoms stores 1 lithium, but in silicon, one silicon can store itself 4.4 atom of lithium. So if when it stores a huge amount of lithium, what happens? Its volume gets drastically changed. Like in case of silicon, it is 350 percentage of its initial volume. And due to this huge volume change upon the lithiation, lithiation means lithium storage, what happens? It experiences a huge amount of stress, like nearly 2 GP of stress this material can experience. So due to this experience, there will be there will be used stress development, and due to this used stresses, your material will face severe mechanical degradation. So you can see that your material can crack, fracture. Your film, if it is in the form of film, it can delaminate from the current collector. If you are using particles, then particles can further fracture, like that called polymerization. And ultimately, what will happen? The loss of current, loss of electrical contact with the current collector, and your active material will be will be there. So, as I already shown in my previous, lecture, that this is the profile of silicon. So you can see that just within 10 cycles, you will have negligible lithium storage capacity. Your performance will drastically degrade. And one more thing you can see here, the amorphous silicon film, which is just after 10 cycles, you can see severe cracking, and somewhere the material also got delaminated from the current filter. So we already have discussed that the stress is severe problem in electrode material. Not only the electrode material, it is a problem in the overall battery also. So these can be classified broadly in two cases, which we already have discussed, like within the electrode material particle are due to the constraining effect, which are external. So we will focus more here, majorly the stress developed due to the constraint effect. So constraint means like when your when suppose silicon when react with lithium, it want to get freely expand, but it is attached with a current collector. So the current collector will provide it a constraint. Okay, it will not freely allow to expand and contract when the lithium remove from it. Okay, so this will be one kind of constraint from current collector. The another constraint what can be if you are using suppose composite electrode. Composite electrode means like you are using particle active material in the form of particles. Then you add conducting additive, then binder. So you make a slurry. So in that electrode, what happens? The binder can itself provide some constraint because the silicon will expand. The binder will not allow to it because it has some constraining nature. Then during cycling, what will happen? Your electrolyte will degrade on the surface of electrode, and that surface of that electrolyte degradation, the layer form upon the electrolyte degradation, we call it SEI layer, solid electrolyte interface. So that insulating layer will itself create constraint. It will not, it will resist the freely expansion and contraction of the undergoing particle. So this will be the like main focus in this case. So how we can minimize these stresses developing in the electrode materials? So a lot of efforts has been done. Like people have tried with with creating nanostructures. They have like in the form of 1D nanometer, 1D, 2D, 3D nanostructures. Then they have used active and inactive composite materials. Like active and inactive composite material means there will be two components or more than two components in which one or two phases will remain inactive toward the lithium storage, whereas one phase will actively react with the lithium and it will participate in the battery performance. People also have tried by creating, porous architectures. Like you have like silicon sponge or graphene sponge, graphite sponge. There are many porous architecture has been created, which efficiently can mitigate the stress. So then there is an examples of thin films and patterned films. So thin films means instead of taking bulk particles, say in the form of micron, you use silicon films in the range of say 100 nanometers or 50 nanometers. So these films can give you excellent electrochemical stability. And one more thing, like you can do instead of depositing or using continuous films, you can use specific patterns, pattern film. So in this, these architectures, these various architecture, what happens? The diffusion length for the length of the lithium diffusion into the material get decreased. So your entire material will lithiate. Secondly, the kinetics will be faster, and thirdly, there will be lesser stresses. And due to these pores between these structures, can effectively accommodate the volume expansion of electrode material. Now, the concept comes stress buffer interlace. So by name itself, this is an interlayer. Interlayer where in between your active electrode material and the and current collector. Current collector which supplies current to the electrode. So in between these two, there will be a thin film. Uh, so this thin film can be made up of a material which has low modulus. Low modulus means when your active material will expand. So with the expansion of that due to low modulus, this interlayer can also get expanded. And when the lithium will remove from your active material, upon the compression, this interlayer can also uh, uh, compress with the compression of your electron material. There is an example of elastomeric numeric substrate. If you don't want to use like a different layer of the material, what you do, you directly deposit your material on the elastomeric substrate, like on polymer-based structures, you deposit your material and then cycle it. So there will, that is also one of the way to minimize the stress. And there are like certain number of examples where people have used shape memory alloys, like nickel and titanium based safe memory alloys in between current collector and your film. So that can also help to mitigate the stress. And there are a couple of examples based on graphene and graphite as a interlayers to minimize the stresses. So in my presentation, wherever we will discuss about the interlayers, so these two examples based on graphene and shape memory alloy will be discussed in more details. Okay. So why chose buffer interlayers? Okay. It's X biaxial modulus is 1 TPU. And the beauty with this material is that in fuel graphenes, the graphene layers are bonded loosely by weak van der Waals forces. So the advantage of these weak van der Waals forces is that when you apply some load, these layers can slide past each other. So this can act as a lubricant. Okay? And the thirdly is a good. It has really good electrical conductivity. So there will be no issue of electronic conduction due to the presence of this interlayer. And third, and one more reason is that it can itself can store lithium, because graphite stores lithium, so graphene will also store lithium. So we can compare the we can compare that what is the effect of choosing a interlayer which can store lithium and which cannot store lithium. Okay, so the third example of interlayer which will be used in my which I use in my work is NITI based shape memory alloy. By its name, it suggests that it has shape memory The shape memory suggest that when you apply some load, its original phase will convert into some other phase, and when you remove the load, that phase come back to its initial phase. So in NITI, the initial phase is austenite phase, and when you apply load, this austenite phase will convert into martensite phase. And due to this, phase transformation from austenite to martensite and martensite back to the austenite, there is 8% strength is generated, which is very much capable to accommodate the volume expansion and stressor developing in silicon type electrodes. Okay. Now, so this is there are like a couple of reports available in the literature. Okay, we can use graphene, we can use NITI that can excellently improve the electrochemical performance of electrodes. But no one knows like what will be the stress magnitude when you use these buffer layers. What will be the stress magnitude? What will be the stress profile? Like during lithiation, will there be compressive stress or will there be tensile stress and vice versa? And if there is some stress, so what will be the mechanism of stress accommodation when you apply these buffer interlayers? Secondly, you it is not known if suppose you the silicon and graphene system is very much explored, but still people don't know what is the interfacial addition properties of electrode and current collectors when you use these buffer interlayers. Thirdly, if suppose you are using these buffer interlayers, what about the structural features of your electrode? Will it remain same to the before cycling, or will it will be different from from the before cycling material, or it will be like some so no one knows. Again, what will be the effect of the presence of these buffer interlayers on the overall electrical performance of the electrode? So these are couple of questions, challenging questions, which we will we will address in this presentation. Okay. So before going to the detail of the work, so this is the electro architecture used for stress measurement. So here what you do, we have a circular quad substrate, which is around 1 inch diameter. On that, you deposit first a thin layer of chromium. The chromium layer, on the top of chromium layer, you deposit nickel or copper based current collectors. Okay. The reason of choosing binder layer of chromium or addition layer chromium, the reason is if you will deposit nickel or copper directly on quartz, the addition will not be strong between the current collector and quartz. So during cycling, even your current collector can get you low. Okay. So for that reason, you deposit a thin binder layer or addition. Now, on the top of your current collector, you grow your buffer interlayers. Okay. So to grow the graphene, I use CVD method. CVD method means chemical vapor deposition. Like you decompose some organic material at high temperature in inert atmosphere or in gaseous atmosphere. So it will deposit nicely ordered graphitic carbon on the top of your metallic collector. Okay, and for deposition of NITI shape memory alloy, I use pulse laser deposition. So in pulse laser deposition, what is done? You apply high energy density laser pulses on your target material. So due to this high energy pulse laser pulses, your material will get applied and it will deposit on desired substrate. Okay, so on the top of these interlayers, we grow the material which is choice, that is amorphous silicon film. Why I chose amorphous silicon film in this case to study the stress measurement? The reason is the crystalline nature of silicon can hamper the stress, the dynos, the isotropic stress development in crystalline can affect the measurement. So therefore, we use amorphous silicon, which is so in which the stress development is anisotropic. Fine. So we already have seen this setup in the morning session. So this is a multi-beam optical stress sensor, this setup. So in this setup, what happens? You have a laser. There is one athlon. So athlon, what will do? It will multiply the laser beams. So suppose one laser beam coming from laser, athlon will divide this laser in these beam in two or multiples. Okay. So there will be half a splitter. This what it will do? It will reflect some amount of these beams, and it will incident of the CCD camera. And there will be some amount of laser. Laser will transmit through these splitters, and it will strike. So how we can place the electrode? So we flip this electrode architecture, means like you rotate this electrode at 160. So quartz will be on the top, and your active surface of silicon will be on the bottom. So in that fashion, we put this electrode. So in bottom, so this is like a special design cell. We call it custom-made electrochemical cell because we design it for particularly for stress measurement purpose. So in bottom, what you do, you place lithium metal. You can see by green color. Then you place your separator, this polymer separator, purchased from mostly Celgard. Then you put this entire assembly in a revert mode. so that your quartz will face on the top and your silicon film will face to the separator. Then you fill it electrolyte, but be careful that electrolyte should not come on the top of quartz. Okay. So the reflecting surface of this quartz, it will reflect the incident laser beams, and this reflected laser beam will also coincide will incident on the CCD camera. Okay, so due to the incident CCD camera, so during the course of lithium storage, what will happen? Lithium will enter in your electrode material. So due to the constraining effect between the substrate and electrode field, the entire uh, electrode film system will get banned. Okay. Due to this band, the spot position on the CCD camera will change. Okay. And so in real time, what you do, this machine, it tracks the spot position and will tell you this delta D. Okay. You put this delta D in this equation, so from where you can get the curvature of this system, curvature of this film electrode system. Okay. Upon delimitation, lithium will remove and curvature in opposite direction will occur. So you put this, curvature or radius of curvature in the Stone's equation, and you get the magnitude of the stress developing in the electrode. Uh, So for the measurement purpose, what we do, we measure the stress during each deposition step by you measure the stress with in bare quartz substrate. Then you deposit current collector, you again measure the stress. Then you deposit interlayers, you measure the stress. And when you have deposited active fuel, then again you measure the stress. So in this way, what will happen, you will get the stress at each growth step. Okay. And also during cycling, of course, it will give you the real time real time value of the stress developing in the fuel. Fine. So now we are coming to the first case. So in first case, what we'll explore, we'll place graphene interlayer in silicon and between silicon and copper, and we'll see uh, we will see the effect of its presence on the electrothermal storage in silicon electrode. Okay. So as I already told you that we deposited this multilayer graphene by chemical vapor deposition. So we confirmed it by SADI, which showed that the nature of the deposited material is graphitic. Okay. Then we did Raman spectroscopic measurement, and we found that the defect density is pretty under control, and we have multi-layer nature of the deposited graphitic carbon. Then we calculated the oxygen by carbon ratio in the films, and we found that the ratio is very much under control. So the films are not oxidized. Then we confirmed the number of layers by AFM and TM measurements, and it again confirms that the number of layers in the deposited graphene is 8 to 10 layers. Then we cycle it. Then we electrochemical cycling. We did the electrochemical cycling of these graphitic film, and we found that it shows very nice potential plateaus, which is very much which is signature feature of graphitic carbon, like these form stages. Okay. So now move to the stress development in this film. So you can see that during the lithiation, so this thin line is representing by the voltage trends, and the thicker line is the stress response. So as the lithiation proceeds till say around 0.3 volt, so the voltage response is linear and is in compressive direction. Upon further lithiation, what happens? The lithium, the stress get released, and toward the end of cycle, it end up with around 1.8 GPa. So The reason that why the stress is getting released here, once your stress is reaching around 2 GPa or more than 2 GPa, which is very much higher than the yield point of lithiated silicon. So due to that, your silicon film get plastically deformed. Okay? Because of plastic deformation of the undergoing silicon film, the stress gets released during delithiation. This part. So during delithiation, when lithium removed from silicon film, immediately your film what it will do? It will try to compress, but so it will it will try to come in its original form, but the current collector will not allow it to compress. So due to that, your stress get built up in tensile direction. Okay, and upon further removal of the lithium, you will see toward the end of lithiation a sharp dip in the stress profile. So the presence of such kind of sharp dip in the stress profile is an indication that your film is getting fractured, cracked. Your film is getting cracked. Okay? And in the second cycle, you can see that this kind of plastic flow or compressed or release, stress release is totally absent. You will see a predominant flow kind of behavior both in lithiation as well as in delithiation half cycles. Okay. Now, if you compare the silicon electrode in the presence of graphene, so the first case was silicon without graphene. When you place graphene interlayer between current collector, means copper or nickel and your silicon film, and then you measure the stress, what you will see that during lithiation, first lithiation half cycle, the profile remain more or less same. Here and here both are same. Like you will experience plastic flow here also, but during the first delineation here, you will see contrasted difference in these two cases. Like here you will see a sharp stress dip, but in the presence of graphene, you will see monotonous stress release. So this indicates that in both the cases, the stress accommodation mechanism is totally different. Okay, what is that? We'll discuss this later. And if you look at the second cycle profile also, instead of these predominant flow kind of signatures, you will see that the stress release stress buildup is monotonous. There is no stress release kind of feature uh, available here. And during second delimitation, you will see that after initial stress release, uh, the stress remain more or less same, like more or less same. So this difference comes that the layers, the sliding natures of layer during, upon the removal of lithium, that helps to mitigate the stress. Okay? Now, if we compare the stress build up in both the cases, so this blue line is for silicon without graphene interlayer, and this black spots are in the presence of graphene. So you will see that in both in the absence of graphene, you will always experience a high level of stress development in silicon film instead of in the presence of graphene. Okay. Now, if we compare the lithiation capacity, like this reversible lithium capacity means the capacity associated with the delithiation part. Okay? So if you compare this here to here and here to here, you will see that in the presence of graphene, the amount of stored lithium is just double as compared to silicon without graphene. So in the presence of graphene, the reason is that silicon experience more compressive stress. So due to that more compressive stress, the further lithiation of silicon films get caused. Okay, but in the presence of graphene, the stress magnitude you have seen that stress magnitude is always lesser. Okay, so due to this lower degree of stresses, the further lithiation of silicon film will not cause. Okay, and it will try to attain lithium storage near to its theoretical values. Okay. So based on these observation, what we have hypothesized that why there is a more lithium capacity in the presence of graphene. So so there may be like two cases, two reasons. of higher capacity of lithium capacity in silicon in the presence of graphene. One is lithium gets segregated at the silicon graphene interface. Why? At this interface, like this, denoted by this sky blue color. So before the cycling only, these lithium ion get accumulated at this interface. Okay. During cycling, during the cycling, so these this free surface exposed to the electrolyte as well as these silicon graphene interface where lithium already gets segregated. So from these two way, the lithium will start to insert in silicon. So that is the reason that in silicon film you are getting more lithium storage as compared to silicon without that. As we already have seen that in the second and subsequent cycles, in the absence of graphene, silicon film experience severe flow, severe plastic deformation. But in the presence of graphene, the flow kind of signature was totally absent. There was stress, compressive stress buildup, not release kind of signature were available in the second and subsequent cycle. Okay. So why is it so? So based on these, what we did, we performed nano indentation and they did scratch test. So at constant load, we did scratch and we measure the scratch width and we look at the we try to measure the interfacial adhesion. So what we found, the work of separation or adhesion for silicon graphene interface and the carbon-carbon interface in graphene is much lesser than the work of separation for silicon and copper interface, or silicon or nickel interface. So that is the case that because of the presence of this graphene, the interfacial strength between silicon and current collector get decreased by 3 to 10 times. Okay. So this weaker interface between silicon and the current collector due to the presence of graphene facilitated excellent sliding, which effectively minimize the stress developing in the silicon electrode. Okay. Then this is the surface morphology of silicon thin film electrode after 40 cycles in both the cases. So in the absence of graphene, you can see there is there's a severe cracking of the film and a lot of material got delaminated from the current collector. These white patches, you can see that this is the delaminated silicon crystals. You can clearly see the current collector exposed. Okay, and in the presence of graphene, your film got fractured, but delamination was not observed in this case. Okay. So why is it so? So we try to calculate the critical length of the fracture islands. You can see that the cracked parts. So we try to measure the size of these islands, okay, so that these islands should not go should not undergo further plastic deformation. So the critical length calculated for silicon in the absence of graphene is around 3 micron. Okay, but you can see that the size of these islands are more than these three value. The size of these islands is much larger than the 3 micron. So that is the reason these islands also experience further plastic deformation. So that is the reason that you are seeing a severe flow in the absence of graphene even in second and subsequent cycles. But in the presence of graphene, the critical island size should be in between 8 to 25 micron. Okay, but the measured island size in this case is much lesser than the critical island size. Means the island size, which is 4 micron in this case, in the presence of graphene, will not experience further plastic flow or further plastic deformation. So that is the reason you are not experience plastic flow in the presence of graphene in the second cycle and subsequent cycle. Now, we try to look at the surface morphology in all the cases at different in one cycle, in the first cycle at different locations, different voltage points. So in both the cases, where in starting films are cracking. Okay. So toward the end of lithiation life, first half cycle, both the films remain cracking. But when you look at just before the point where a silicon film without graphene shows sharp stress depth, you can see that the silicon film remain crack free when you are not using graphene. But in the presence of graphene, even before this point, your silicon film has cracks. Okay, and toward the end of first full cycle, you will see that both the films has cracks. But the crack density in the presence of in the absence of graphene is much more as compared to silicon in the presence of graphene. Okay, so this is the scene which we already have seen after 40 cycles. Now, more interesting feature you will see that in the absence of graphene, when you can compare that the spacing between these crack islands getting increased. But in the presence of graphene, it is remaining more or less same. Okay? So the continued increase in the spacing between these islands indicates that in addition to the plastic deformation of silicon islands itself, there is something other mechanism also undergoing. That can be the plastic deformation of current collector underneath the silicon films. Okay? So this indicates toward that possibility. So to look toward that possibility, what uh, we did XRD of current collectors of electrodes after cycling and before cycling. Okay. So the FWHM, the sharpness of the this peak associated with the nickel, uh, the the peak became broadened after electrochemical cycling. So this broadening of the nickel peak in XRD indicates toward the deformation of nickel also. Okay, which we further confirmed by TM observation performed on the cross section sample of nickel in TM. So what you can see before cycling, the dark region in this TM image are lesser, but after cycling, you can see that the dark region got increased. So the increase of this dark region indicates this is one of the sign of strain accumulated regions. These strain accumulated regions are deformed regions. Okay, and you can see that in the nickel region there will be presence of twins. So the formation of twins also indicate toward the plastic deformation of nickel current collector. But when you will look at nickel in the presence of graphene, you will see that there is no such dark region accumulated in the nickel film. So this indicates that this confirms that nickel film also getting clusterly deformed in addition to the deformation of silicon film. Okay. So to further confirm the deformation of nickel current collectors, what we did, we performed EBSD measurement. So EBSD is a technique which works on the back scattered electrons, which provide you the surface features. Okay. So in EBSD, what we saw that in the absence of graphene, you can clearly see that this green and red region uh, got increased. Okay. But in the presence of graphene, the film, the appearance of films in both the cases before and after remain more or less same. So in the absence of graphene, what we found, uh, the misorientation, changes from low angle to high angle after the cycling. But in the presence of graphene, the misorientation distribution, which was a low angle uh, before the cycling, remains low angle even after many cycles. And secondly, if you compare the geometrically necessary dislocations in both the cases, so it increased around 250% in the absence of graphene, but in the presence of graphene, it is just 100%. Okay. Then to confirm, to further cross-check the deformation of the signature of the deforming signature of nickel current collector, we conducted this entire study on copper foil having graphene and without graphene, and we measure the conductivity of copper foil just before the electrochemical cycling and after the electrochemical cycling. So what we found in the absence of graphene, the conductivity of copper foil after cycling got around 80% reduced. Whereas in the presence of graphene, this reduction was just 25%. So which again indicates what the decrease of conductivity due to the defect formation in the current filter. Okay. Now we further move to see the effect of the presence of graphene when you systematically vary the thickness of your either your active film or your interlayer. So in this case, you are not able to vary the thickness of the interlayer, but we try to vary the thickness of silicon film. So what we did, we chose three thicknesses like 50, 100, and 200 nanometer thick silicon films we deposited on directly copper foil and on copper foil which has graphene layers. Okay. And so this is the electrochemical cycling stability trends in the three cases. This is for 200, this is for 100, this is 50. So in the thick film, what we saw that the initially lot of capacity got fed just in the 10 cycles, but for 100 nanometer thick film, the capacity fed was continuous, not sharp. It was continuous. Okay, and for 50 nanometer thick film, again the capacity continuously capacity fed was also. Okay, but when you apply graphene between silicon and current collector, what you see, only marginal capacity get fed in first cycle, and afterwards see